Agnetha Faltskog, the iconic voice of ABBA, has always been known for her soft tone, striking presence, and legendary performances. But behind the music and the glamour, there were tensions, rivalries, and moments of deep personal conflict that fans rarely saw. Today, we reveal the story of the one person she reportedly clashed with the most, a figure whose interactions with her left a lasting impression on her career and her life. For decades, the world knew Agnetha as the quiet member of the pop sensation ABBA, a woman whose voice could captivate millions and whose smile lit up every stage. But behind the scenes, insiders say, she had strong opinions about certain colleagues, artists, producers, and even friends, who challenged her patience and principles in ways that were impossible to ignore. In rare interviews and memoirs, Agnetha alluded to struggles with collaboration, creative differences, and the pressures of fame. She was meticulous about her artistry and uncompromising when it came to integrity. And there was one individual who, more than anyone else, seemed to test her limits, a man whose actions sparked some of her most pointed critiques and private frustrations. Tonight, we take a closer look at the personal dynamics, the backstage conflicts, and the story behind Agnetha Faltskog's strongest professional clash. The person she openly admitted troubled her more than anyone else. This isn't scandal. It's a glimpse into the human side of a music legend, revealing how talent, pride, and principles can sometimes collide behind the spotlight. Agnetha Faltskog's rise to fame with ABBA was meteoric. The group's music captivated the world. Their harmonies became instantly recognizable, and their performances were nothing short of legendary. But behind the glittering stage lights and catchy melodies, the journey was not always harmonious. While the world saw smiling faces and flawless routines, insiders knew there was one person whose presence consistently tested Agnetha's patience. Someone whose approach to work, personality, or decisions clashed sharply with hers. According to those close to the band, the tension began subtly. Early rehearsals and recording sessions meant to perfect the group's sound became battlegrounds for creative control. Agnetha, known for her meticulousness, could spend hours fine-tuning a vocal line, striving for precision, clarity, and emotional authenticity. She expected the same level of commitment and focus from her collaborators, and when she felt it lacking, friction was inevitable. The first significant clash reportedly occurred during the recording of a major ABBA hit. Agnetha wanted a particular phrasing for a chorus, delicate, controlled, and emotionally resonant. Yet one male counterpart, driven by his own interpretation, pushed for a louder, more assertive delivery. It wasn't about ego, Agnetha later reflected in an interview. It was about the song and the way it needed to feel. As disagreements escalated, Agnetha's frustration grew. Colleagues who witnessed these moments said she could be cold and distant when provoked, retreating into her own world to preserve her focus. She didn't raise her voice, one studio assistant recalled, but you could feel the tension in the room. She didn't hide her disapproval, and she wasn't afraid to hold firm. Even in public appearances, the subtle signs of strain were noticeable. A slight frown during interviews, a controlled tone in responses, or a pause when certain topics were brought up hinted at the complexity of her relationships within the music industry. While ABBA's chemistry on stage remained undeniable, the work behind the scenes was often far from smooth. Despite the tension, Agnetha maintained professionalism, a testament to her dedication and discipline. She knew the music came first, and that personal differences had to be managed carefully. "I loved the work too much to let personal feelings ruin it," she admitted, in a rare reflective moment. This first clash set the tone for years of careful navigation between artistry and personality. Agnetha's standards, her insistence on emotional authenticity, and her unwillingness to compromise her artistic integrity created a dynamic that would continue to influence her interactions and decisions. And for the person who tested her patience the most, it became clear that Agnetha's respect had limits, boundaries she was never willing to cross. The stage was glittering, the music enchanting, but behind the scenes, the first seeds of one of Agnetha Faltskog's most remembered tensions were already planted. A conflict rooted not in malice, but in dedication, passion, and the uncompromising pursuit of excellence. After the initial clash, the tension surrounding Agnetha Faltskog and the individual she openly admitted challenged her the most did not fade. Instead, it gradually intensified, shaping the atmosphere behind the scenes and testing the resilience of one of pop music's most iconic collaborations. What had begun as a professional disagreement over creative decisions slowly morphed into a deeper, more personal friction, one that would follow Agnetha for years. Insiders reveal that during the mid-years of ABBA's recording schedule, disagreements over artistic direction became more frequent. Agnetha, committed to delivering emotionally authentic performances, often found herself at odds with a colleague whose approach was more pragmatic, even self-serving. Where she valued subtlety and nuance, he pushed for showmanship, compromise, or efficiency, often at the expense of the delicate balance she believed made the group exceptional. One particular session, now recounted in numerous interviews, became emblematic of their professional divide. Agnetha was perfecting a track meant to capture vulnerability and longing. Her vision required multiple takes, careful attention to phrasing, and a focus on emotional resonance. Her counterpart, frustrated by time constraints and the need to finish the recording, urged her to move faster. It wasn't about stubbornness, Agnetha explained later. It was about the song. That's all that mattered. The tension in the studio that day was palpable. Colleagues described long silences punctuated by sharp glances, quiet exasperation, and subtle gestures of frustration. Though neither spoke publicly about the incident at the time, those who witnessed it said it left a mark on Agnetha, a clear boundary she would not allow to be crossed again. As rehearsals and tours continued, the strain occasionally seeped into public moments. While Agnetha always maintained a poised, composed presence on stage and in interviews, fans could sometimes sense a subtle edge in her demeanor, a reflection of the ongoing struggle to reconcile personal standards with collaborative realities. It wasn't hostility, it was discernment. She was fiercely protective of her artistry and unwilling to compromise her principles for convenience or ego. Yet, despite the friction, Agnetha's professionalism never wavered. She approached every recording, rehearsal, and performance with discipline, dedication, and meticulous attention to detail. Her colleagues recognized her unwavering commitment, even when it meant difficult conversations, disagreements, or silent standoffs. Those who witnessed her resolve noted that it was precisely this dedication that earned her respect, even from those who tested her patience most. This escalation revealed something deeper about Agnetha, her uncompromising integrity. She did not act out of spite, jealousy, or personal animosity. She acted to preserve the music, the performance, and her own values. The individual who challenged her most would continue to appear in her professional life. Yet Agnetha learned to navigate the tension with grace, assertiveness, and quiet authority. By the end of this period, the relationship between Agnetha and her most challenging colleague had transformed into a cautious, carefully managed dynamic. The clash that had begun as a minor disagreement had matured into a defining element of her professional identity, a testament to her strength, her standards, and her commitment to being true to herself above all else. The music world saw ABBA as a seamless machine of hits, harmonies, and glittering performances. Yet behind that polished exterior, Agnetha Faltskog's conflict with the individual she reportedly disliked most quietly shaped the group's dynamics and her own personal journey. While the public saw smiles, coordinated outfits, and perfect stage presence, the reality backstage was far more complex. According to insiders, The friction affected how rehearsals were conducted, how songs were arranged, and sometimes even how decisions were made during recording sessions. Agnetha's insistence on artistic integrity often clashed with this colleague's more pragmatic approach. While some might have seen this as tension or negativity, those close to the band understood that her actions were rooted in dedication, not disdain. She wanted excellence, not just for herself, but for the group's enduring legacy. The stress of balancing creative perfection with collaborative compromise inevitably took its toll. Agnetha, who had always been introspective and sensitive, often retreated into quiet reflection after particularly challenging sessions. Friends recalled seeing her in moments of solitude, listening to music alone, or taking long walks to regain composure and perspective. She wasn't angry in a petty way, one assistant explained. She was protecting the music and staying true to herself. At the same time, the tension impacted the interpersonal bonds within ABBA. While the group remained professional, certain decisions, from song arrangements to touring schedules, became battlegrounds for differing visions. Agnetha's ability to remain composed, however, often helped diffuse potential conflicts. Her colleagues learned to respect